What is up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. Welcome. Sabotage. No, I'm not picking my nose. I'm flossing my teeth. It's much different. Inspired by our good friend Bob Ruge, the FPV dentist. Y'all still remember him, right? I floss twice a day. I went to the dentist a while back and they were like, your gums could be healthier. We need to do this treatment. It's a surgical treatment. It'll cost you like $1,500 and they'll do the surgery on your gums and da da da. And I was like, my default, when the doctor says we need to do this procedure, we need this thing, my default answer is, I don't know, okay. If I go to the mechanic and they say my car needs work, I'm just like, I guess my car needs work. And then I'll figure out how to afford it. But something about me, I was just like, I don't know about that. And what if I just started, you go to the dentist and they say, well, have you been brushing and flossing? And you go, yeah, sure I have. Let's go with that. And then they're like, your gums are shit. And you're like, who can understand the ways of these things? So instead of getting the surgery, I just was like, how about I just actually go brush and floss every day? Like I've been telling you that I have, and we both know that I haven't. And the next time I went in, they were like, your gums are looking really good. So I guess they had just realized that I was a lost cause. And they were like, clearly you're not going to have any dental hygiene. We just have to do surgery. May as well collect $1,500 for the, So if you think about it, if I floss twice a day, divided by however many days in the month, every time I do it, I'm basically making money. So there's your message of the day. And I realized as I was going into the stream, I hadn't flossed this morning. And I was like, well, it's not like I'm going to let it slide. For those of you in America, this is the American stream. We do it on the afternoon on Sunday. No, wait, this is the European stream. For those of you in Europe, you know what a dentist is. For those watching from America, a dentist is a medical professional who cares for your teeth. You can't afford one. And your insurance doesn't cover it. So it's how your teeth hurt all the time and sometimes fall out? Yeah, well, if you had a dentist, that wouldn't happen. But the message of today is that just floss twice a day, brush your teeth, cross your fingers that your genes don't screw you over, and you may not even need a dentist. Welcome to the stream, everybody. That's what we come here for, dental advice, right? No, that's not what you're here for. You're here for FPV discussions. We're going to ask questions about FPV. Blunty! I know you don't want to talk right now because you're queuing up the billions of questions that are coming in. Say hi to the people.
How's it going?
Live. Hey!
Everyone.
It's good to hear your voice again, man. Good to be back here with you. Blunty is my... let's call him a producer, call screener. I want to call you a co-host because without you, the show just wouldn't happen. But you actually don't host. You're seldom on air, so it wouldn't be fair to call you a co-host. But what's happening right now off screen is that Blunty is queuing up these messages, and I'm going to start answering them very shortly. And then we're going to just go for about 2 hours, and we'll answer questions. Blunty equals hype man. I don't know. I'm not sure that Blunty's a hype man.
Yeah, I don't think that's an accurate description.
There are many things you're good at. If I need to bounce an idea off someone and I know they're going to give me the straight dope on their thoughts, it's you. If I feel like you're in some ways the opposite of a hype man.
Yes.
And that if I brought you an idea, you'd be like, I don't know, it's kind of stupid. I hate it. And I get that because I am all. It's weird for me between you and I that I'm the one who is the least cynical and the most optimistic because usually I'm the cynical one in the relationship. So I guess that's part of the reason why I enjoy your company.
If you beat the idea down and then it evolves and something comes out of it, then that means it's worth doing, right? That's where I'm at with it.
I agree, and I appreciate that. However, some people out there just feel like you're not you specifically, but me when I am also expressing that ideal, just a poopy pants who just shits on every idea. So Anyway,
Very much.
let's go ahead though. Let's go ahead. Lost FPV. I also hate it when autocorrect corrects Blunty to bounty. I see what happened. Go ahead, Blunty.
Real quick, let's take this one from Exiled FPV. It only counts as a European Q&A if you're going to do the USA Q&A sooner or later, and you'll be happy to know that tomorrow we have the USA Q&A.
Yeah, I'm back. I was gone for a little while. There were some, just some reasons why we didn't do streams. It's coming to go. But I'm back. I'm back, actually, and they're not scheduled yet. But currently, well, anyway. I'm not going to say the whole month of September and October, the whole month of October. But, yeah, I like streaming. You come to a point where you're like, you know what? You're going to do some other things with my weekend every now and then. And, but I do not have another trip scheduled for most of October, so that's nice. Oh, my screen is so dirty. That's the right way to clean your screen, right? You just lick your fingers. Hang on. I got it. Oh. There we go. Is that bad for your phone if you do that? Spray glass cleaner on it?
I imagine it depends on what it's made of. Just for the people in the chat now, if you do ask a super chat, we'll get to that super chat about 30 minutes into the stream, but we'll get all the other chats as you guys send them in. You only got to submit them one time. I'll queue them all up for everybody. And then if you're in the Discord, you're going to get some priority. So we'll go through the Discord a little more often than we go through the YouTube chats.
That's true. Let's go ahead though. Let's see. We got a question here from Sam Hammond, who is wanting to get into walk snail on a budget and wants to know if they should go for the new Goggles L or the Fat Shark Recon HD. I think the Goggles L would be my choice. Fat Shark's offerings often feel like an afterthought in some ways. They feel like the book report that someone wrote after reading the Cliff Notes version of the book or after reading someone else's book report and then kind of paraphrasing it. They don't seem like they have they seem like they have sort of the minimum amount of effort put in to create a viable product that someone would want to buy. And they are well-made products. Fat Shark's products are well-made. They know how to make a product. They know how to, have it hold up to use, but they just don't seem to try very hard in a lot of ways. And so, like, if you look at the Goggles L, like, it's got a head tracker, it's got all the stuff that Caddx is doing with the Walk Snail system, and the Recon HD is like, it's just a goggle. I don't know, does the Recon HD have a head tracker? I don't think it does. My point is that the Goggles L is Caddx's offering for the future of the system, and the Recon HD is Fat Shark's kind of like, hey guys, we have a Walk Snail goggle. Look, isn't it nice? And so I would go with the Goggles L. Just based on that. Sam also wants to know where the Goggles L review is coming. I got halfway through my review of the Goggles L, and then I realized I couldn't fly it if I didn't have a corrective lens because my glasses won't fit in it. So I had to order the corrective lens from Walk Snail, and it came while I was on this last trip, and now I have it, and now I will finish recording it. Although I have to say, it's been so long since the product came out. There is a part of me that kind of is like, is there really a point in doing this? I don't know. I probably will still do it just because, but I do acknowledge it's pretty late in the game. Garter Rotor points out that the Goggles L doesn't have the low latency mode. Does the Recon HD do 100 frames per second? That would be a definite selling point. 1080p, 1920 by 1080. Does it even say 1080p? 60 FPS, no. So the Recon HD also doesn't do 100 frames per second. So that's not a distinguishing mark between them.
Do you think the FOV is too big? Stan was also asking that in chat.
On the Recon HD?
Yeah, it's like, no, the Goggles L. It's like 75 degrees or something.
No. I mean, to be fair, because I haven't flown them because I haven't had the corrective lenses, but like the 75 degree, like the DJI V2 goggles have like an 80 degree field of view, and that's a pretty big screen. But I think for a box goggle, that's not ridiculous. Like, do I have a battery handy? Oh, I do. Best money I ever spent. It's those drawers, those benches. Like I'll like poke my face in it and take a look and like give you an opinion, but I won't. It'll be blurry because I won't have my glasses on. So, but it is what it is. I have the lens actually. Hang on, where's that lens? I have it. I'm not gonna go get it. That's too much. But just a fucking. Oh, it's on. Great. I was like, is there a power button? I don't think so. So here's what I'll say. I definitely cannot get the entire screen top to bottom in view at the same time. I will say that. Now that may change when I put the lens in, but not everybody is going to have the lens. If I'm looking at the bottom of the screen, I can't see the top, and vice versa. And likewise for left and right. So the place that seems like it's going to have the biggest effect is going to be if I want to see the row of information at the bottom, like the voltage, the megabits per second, and so forth. How much that's going to actually bother me when I fly, I won't know until I go fly. The other thing about them is that it's going to be tricky to adjust them up and down on your face because, like, it really is going to depend on this foam and the shape of your face. So a lot of times I find with box goggles, there's not as much flexibility to kind of angle them exactly how you want them. So, whereas with the binocular style goggles, they're just sitting on your face. They kind of just stay where you put them. Yeah. So, okay. Jacob Douglas wants to know, should I worry about having 5-inch props and motors on a 7-inch frame on a sub 650 gram build? No. I mean, the weight is compatible. The weight is consistent with how much a 5-inch build usually weighs, so the motors and props can handle the weight. There was a popular thing to do. Well, I don't know how popular it was. There was a thing that people did a while back where they would do a 5-inch build on a 6-inch frame. And it basically just gives you a wider wheelbase, a little more stability, a little less nimbleness, but they kind of liked it. And you're basically doing that same thing. As long as your weight is okay, then no problem. If you like how it flies, more power to you. What are the best antennas for the Walksnail Goggles X for long range? I have the Flywoo LR4. What I would do to answer that question is I would go to TrueRC. TrueRC makes a lot of really good antennas. And I would go directional medium gain antennas. And I would look what they have for Walksnail. Can I just search for Walksnail? How about that? So X2 pair, yeah, for Goggles X. So I probably would get something like this. X2 Air pair for Goggles X. Excuse me. I have a little bit of a hiccup. I've been drinking Spindrift Pineapple. So good. Now, if you're going long range, you might not even want the Omnis. You might want dual. So you might even see if you could figure out a way to mount 4 of them and really reach out there. But like something like this would be the place I would go if I didn't want to do like a custom high gain antenna. Yeah. That's what I would be looking at if I wanted something off the shelf. Let's just do a Google search here and see what kind of aftermarket antennas there might be. Like, people may have come out with aftermarkets. That's just the factory patch antenna. Yeah. Like, we could always come up with just an SMA. It's just an RPSMA or an SMA connector, right? It doesn't really matter. So we could always put any kind of antenna on here we wanted. But in terms of, mounting them nicely and so forth, I think that's the direction I would go. Yeah. All right. Chemic wants to know, what do you think about this? I don't know if I can click on that link.
Discord is in the Discord.
But I can type it faster than I can click it. What do you think about this? The Caillou Mini. Reminds me a lot of an Odonata. I'm immediately suspicious. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's a really interesting way to build a little 2.5 inch. That's pretty slick. Look at that little guy. That's pretty slick. I bet that flies really good. Downscaled 5-inch freestyle filling. 2S battery. Love it. Properly scaled down to 2.5 inch. That's pretty slick. I like that. Interesting. I'd definitely build that analog. Oh, interesting. With a built-in VTX. I probably would want a standalone VTX to get... I just feel like you want more output power. But I would probably build it the way they say to build it the first time, just because, like, there's a tendency that I have, and I think a lot of people may identify with that, where you see, like, there's somebody's like, here, build it this way, and you're like, I don't like that, I'm going to do it my way. And then you're like, why does this suck so much? And it's like, yeah, why didn't you build it the way that I said to build it? So I always like first I'm going to do it the way that you said to do it, and then I'm going to try to mess with it and tweak it. But I'm at least going to try it the right way before I mess with it. That's pretty cool. Derek wants to know, how concerned should I be when I hear telemetry lost, telemetry recovered from my radio? That depends, Derek. If you're LQ, so you always want to have LQ link quality in the OSD, in the on-screen display. If the LQ is solid, then the fact that telemetry is going in and out probably doesn't matter. Telemetry is transmitted from the receiver back to the controller, right? So it's an uplink. And the receiver usually has relatively low transmit power. So your transmitter may have 1 watt of output power, but your receiver may only have 100 milliwatts. So it's very common for the telemetry range on the uplink to be less than the control link range. So you may see telemetry lost, but your LQ is just fine, and then it doesn't matter. But if you hear telemetry lost and your LQ is like sketchy, that's a different problem. As long as you're not actually fail-safing, it probably wouldn't worry about it. Gadget RC wants to know about how to approach a program introducing the hobby to kids. How young is too young, and what equipment would you go with? Trying to help the Scout District make good decisions. Gadget, the first thing I would do is I would invest in hand controllers. My recommendation would be the Radiomaster Pocket. The Radiomaster Pocket is about $60, and if you were going to buy like even as few as 10 or 15, then I could put you in touch with Radiomaster, and they could probably, like, I've done this before. when a school district reached out to me and they wanted to buy some Radiomaster radios, I put them in contact with Radiomaster. Radiomaster gave them a little bit of a volume discount or an educational discount. I can't promise you, because I don't speak for Radiomaster, I can't promise you that you would get the same deal, but I can tell you they've done it in the past. They probably would do it again. So if you were going to buy as few as 10 or 15 of them, you could get a little bit of a discount on the price. That $60 retail price might come down to, I won't say what, because I don't want to like anchor you at a number that you then end up not getting. But you could get 10 or 15 of those radios, and then what you can do is you can get the kids in a simulator. Okay. Simulators are nowhere near as cool as flying a real drone, and a lot of times people feel differently about, well, you're just sitting them in front of a computer and making them play a video game. The whole reason I put my kid into Scouts was because I want to get him off the computer, off the screens. I want him interfacing with the real world, and that may be a deal breaker for you depending on how your troop is organized and so forth. But that would be my approach, because I can take 5 kids, 10 kids, and I can put them all in front of a laptop. Now, where the laptop's going to come from, that's a different question, right? I don't know. But like, I can put them all in front of a laptop, and I can start them flying. I can start them learning. I can look over their shoulder, and then we don't have 27 tiny whoops flying around the room crashing into everybody. Now, if you didn't want to go the simulator direction, I will tell you, I'm gonna kind of bite my tongue as I say this. The Beta FPV Cetus, C-E-T-U-S. I reviewed the Beta FPV Cetus, which is a beginner-focused drone. It has altitude hold, so it holds its own altitude. When you raise the throttle, it climbs. When you center the throttle, it just stays where it is. And it's much easier to fly than a pure acro drone. I reviewed the Beta FPV Cetus a while back, and when I reviewed it, I said what I always say about Beta FPV stuff. If you go online, you'll find some number of people saying, I bought this Beta FPV drone, it died the second day I had it, Beta FPV, never again. And it's so hard to know whether that's just one person who had a bad experience or whether it's more indicative of the brand as a whole. I feel like people need to be warned that those stories are out there, but for me at least, the Beta FPV Cetus has been great. My 5-year-old son has been playing with it, and he can put the batteries on the charger because it's a little self-contained automatic charger. You just plug it into USB, plug the battery in. He puts the batteries on the charger. He can take them off the charger. He'll be like, the green light's off. He'll plug it into the drone, but it'll turn on. He can set it down. He'll arm it. He'll fly it around, and he's beat the shit out of it, and it's just taken it and come back for more. He's like disarmed it from 30 feet in the air and dropped it on the grass, and I say, hey, if you keep doing that, it's going to break. But it hasn't broken yet. It still flies. And so like, it's a sample size of 1, but it's been really good to me. And like, I feel like maybe that might be worth looking into. I don't know. I'm sure the chat is going nuts with people saying Beta FPV, never again. But
I have a little bit of input on this.
Yeah.
Is that one of the issues is you're saying a scout district. Okay, that means, like, are you doing the lesson plan? Like, are you handling the teaching of these kids? Are you handling vetting, how they're handling? Are you just putting them on a simulator and letting them go, right? You're going to have to think about, like, you actually have to train them. They have to have a process and a plan and things to graduate to and a way to get a badge or whatever you're doing, right? So, like, I think it's also worth considering that there are STEM options for drones out there that you could buy kits and purchase from companies. Like Flight Test has a STEM program. There's like a drone university or something. Like, I've seen different STEM programs that are out there. You need to vet them for what technology they're using, how much you're going to pay for it, and what it does. But what it does is enables you not to have to teach everybody. Like, you can just distribute this material. It's already done for you. There's lessons plans, there's guides, there's weekly ways you can handle it, right? Just remember that when you're doing this, if you're doing it for a whole district, you're going to want to understand like what entails here and actually build a program for them, right? Not just throw them on some radios on the simulator, which you're not really suggesting, but I just want to make sure you understand that, like,
that's a good point.
There's something here that you have to do, right?
Yeah, you need a lesson plan. It can't just be here's the equipment, have fun.
Yeah. But that's not the goal, right?
Yeah. I would say like the Beta FPV, the Cetus, there's the Cetus X, there's the Cetus Pro, and so you want to do a little research into those. I also, you could look at the Aquila. I'm not sure how to say it. There's people in the chat saying, "Oh no, stay away from the Aquila." My Aquila has held up pretty well too, and maybe I've just gotten lucky, but it's been okay. So
I would also say, if you're making major purchases, compare the price that you're going to get from Beta FPV versus the price you're going to get from like Get FPV or RDQ, who's going to support you in a bulk order in the future, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the things I would also consider, right? Because if you're doing this and you're going to do a bunch of these, and like, what's your overhead on these breaking in 30 days? Because some of them will, right? And then like,
Absolutely.
how many extra are you going to order? And then how are you going to get them replaced? And what's the customer service going to be like? That's one of the reasons the STEM stuff can be really good, is because they're going to support you through the entire program. But it's also going to be more expensive and less hands-on for you, because it's already going to have a lesson plan, and it's going to be based on what they sell you, right?
I wouldn't expect, if you bought 15 of these units from Get FPV, they might give you a small discount. They definitely have the margin to give discount. But like, if you got a bad unit, they're not gonna. They're gonna just be like, you got to go back to the manufacturer. I don't think they're gonna directly support you in that way if you end up with a bad unit.
I think I don't know. I would at least have communication with them. Like, say, hey, I'm going to order 15 or 20 of these for a scout group, and I wondered if a couple of these break, or if these aren't what I'm ordering 20. Some of them may be DOA. Like, are you going to help me with this, or do I have to work with Beta FPV? I mean, there's no reason not to have the discussion. That's what I would say.
It's worth having. A lot of manufacturers these days, a lot of retailers these days have gotten a lot less generous with covering for manufacturer customer support issues. Like, in the past, there was a time when the reseller would just send you another one, take it back, and then they would go argue with the vendor. And I think that margins are down and volumes are down in the last year or two, and people have gotten a lot less generous, I guess is what I would say. But if you're buying 20, you may have a little more latitude.
The last thing I'll say is, one way you may get that support, because they're trying to build a new product, is Orqa. I don't know what the cost will be. It's probably higher than everything else. But if they like really want to build a program, maybe they can use you as some advertising or something. Because they just launched a STEM program. They just launched a new radio, a new goggles, and a new drone for kids to start the hobby. Like, that's their literal goal with the progress.
That's cool. Like, what does it cost?
We have to. I mean, if you want to pull it up, but I don't know. Like
Orqa, in my experience, makes good product, but their price. When they make these kits, their prices. STEM kit. Orqa STEM kit. I don't know. Maybe we can look. We don't have to speculate. FPV Ace. What do we got? Orqa DreamX 5 HD ready. DreamX 5 Binofly analog. What am I looking for? Education. FPV Ace makes it seamless fun. 300 euros. Chapter 1. FPV Ace Chapter 1, 109 euros. What do we got?
Yeah, so they're like selling you the radio as Chapter 1, I believe is how it works,
okay.
Right?
So we have 110 euros for the radio. Oh, and then you're in the simulator. That's fine. I'm not mad at that. FPV Skydive is actually a pretty good simulator.
And they've added tutorials to Skydive now. So like they're kind of, this is their vision that we've talked about in the past, right?
So you're paying 110 euros for the controller when you could pay $60 for a Radio Master Pocket, and the Radio Master Pocket is a better controller. Like, you're essentially paying twice as much for the controller to get into the Orqa ecosystem. I mean, that has to be acknowledged. You could also just download the FPV Skydive Simulator and use the Radio Master Pocket to play on the Skydive Simulator. I believe the lessons cost money, but the simulator itself is free, if I remember correctly.
The only reason you would be going the Orqa route is to either find, like, basically communicate to them and do some kind of deal, or, like, for some reason you would feel confident. Like, this isn't going to be cheaper.
And then you're paying $300 for a tiny whoop. That something comparable would be $100 to $130. So you're paying more than double, 300 euros. So, that's what I expected. They make good product, but you pay a substantial premium to get into their ecosystem. And like, if I'm running a scout troop, right, or not a single troop, but maybe like a whole, state or something, like, I could buy twice as many Mobula 6s and Radio Master Pockets, with my budget, or I could buy 3/4 to a half as many, depending on how much of a discount I get, of the Orqa stuff. And I'm like, well, I'm probably going to buy the twice as many. But I don't know. Okay. Hopefully that's been helpful. Right, it's Brandon Beans. Right, that's just an analog tiny whoop, right? 325 USD for an analog tiny whoop and a charger and some batteries. There's a substantial uptick for the, hey, this is Orqa. They got the packaging and they got the marketing, and they're trying to find customers who want to be in that ecosystem and who don't realize that they're getting charged a lot for having that presented to them. And I don't have a problem with that. I want to say, I have made purchases in my life where people have said to me, you could pay half as much if you just... And I've been like, I don't want to. I don't want to do that. I just want to go and swipe my credit card and be given a thing and enjoy the thing.
Yeah,
and I'm willing to pay more for that.
I'll just say the only reason I'm suggesting these things is because if you can find some way to make a deal with somebody who's going to provide you support, that means you're not worried and concerned about whoever's losing money on this, or some bad scout leader you told to do this that not getting support, or them having to call back and forth with the manufacturer and wait 30 days to get something from China, right? Like these are all things that can happen in your program. Are those acceptable? Does anybody care? How much money do you have to use? Right? Those are all relevant pieces of information. But if like less people care than the amount of money you have, and you want something that's a lot easier to have support on, these more expensive options might be better, right? That's why I suggest like STEM program and Orqa, because you could find different ways to fit what you need.
Yeah, valid. Neoflow says, why would you ever be okay with paying more for less? Because my time and attention has value. That's why. Why did you go out to eat this morning or this afternoon? When you went to lunch, did you go to a restaurant and buy a hamburger? Why did you pay? Did you know you could make your own hamburger for 1/4 the cost, and potentially it would taste even better? But why didn't you just make your own hamburger? Because you didn't want to. You just wanted to go sit down and pay someone to make you a hamburger. That's why. Why did you pay more for less? Oh, well, that guy makes a restaurant's going to make a better hamburger than I ever could. Why don't you learn to cook? Why don't you become a chef? You could. Why don't you just go to culinary school and spend 5 years becoming a world-class chef, and then you can make any food you want, and it'll be cheaper. Well, I don't want to do that. I want to do something else with my life. That's why you pay more for less. Because your time has value and your attention has value. And there are things you want to spend your time and attention on and things you don't. And when you don't want to spend your time and attention on things, one option is to pay someone else to do it for you. And that's what you're doing. There you go. Not really controversial. Oh God, we haven't gotten any super chats. Blunty, have we gotten any super chats? Have there even been any? Oh, there have. Oh, geez. I've lost track of time. I'm so out of practice. We're going to do the super chats next. After I get this question from DDK, who, by the way, is a patron. Thank you, DDK, for being a patron and joining the Discord server. My quad suddenly fell out of the air twice today, 50 meters away from me. I'm using Crossfire. LQ dropped to 0 in less than a second, and then I realized it was only 1/100 when I armed right next to me instead of 2/100 as usual. LQ is back to 2/100. Not sure how to find out what the issue was. Okay, so when looking at the LQ, the 1 versus the 2, with Crossfire, that's 50 hertz versus 150 hertz. That's the packet rate. You have dynamic RF profile, which means that it will be at 150 hertz when it's close to you. That's 2. And then as you get farther away or signal gets weaker, it'll go down to 50 hertz to improve the range. Why did it stay at 1 when it was close to you? I don't know. I can't make that, the dynamic algorithm has its own logic, and I can't really tell you exactly what was going on there. But suffice it to say, it decided you needed to be at a lower packet rate. But why did it fail safe? Also hard to say. So it wasn't distance, right? 50 meters away, it wasn't distance, and the LQ was at 100 and then suddenly went to 0. It could be interference. There could be something else transmitting on the 900 megahertz band. That's not super likely, but not impossible. It could be your receiver has like a bad power wire, and it like I would be angling towards things like your receiver lost power, or there was some kind of interference, or maybe a software issue. You could try updating the firmware on your module, and then rebind the receiver, and it'll update the firmware. I wouldn't think it's something like a bad antenna, because a bad antenna would make the LQB lower, but not just suddenly go to 0 for no reason.
Also, a reminder that as opposed to just using link quality, especially in situations like this, you should consider adding RSSI DBM to the OSD, because it may give you an extra clue about the situation, right? If it drops very quickly, it may be because 5 seconds before that, the RSSI DBM had been descending rapidly and you didn't notice, right? Something like that.
Valid. You know, usually you won't see that. When you say the LQ dropped to 0, do you mean it went 100, 0? Or do you mean it went 100, 90, 80, 70, 60, 0? Because those two things would be different. One would be like you lost power, and one would be like you flew into some interference or something. So, all right, let's get the super chats. Sheesh, I can't believe I went so long without acknowledging the people who paid real money for me to read their questions. Let's do it. Real Virtuoso, thank you for a $2 super chat. 3S 850 milliamp hour 95C, similar to 4S 850? Cineape 2 using 4S. No, it's not similar. It's got 25% fewer cells. 3S has 3 cells, 4S has 4 cells. 3S is going to be around 12 volts, 4S is going to be around 16 volts. The motors on that Cineape are, if they're designed for use with 4S, if you run it off a 3S, then you're going to get not enough RPM out of the motors, and the quad isn't going to make as much thrust. You sometimes can use a lower voltage battery. Like, I've taught people how to fly, and instead of a 6S battery, we use a 4S battery. And the quad has basically 66% as much thrust, but it makes it easier for beginners to learn how to fly. And then when they get a little comfortable, we go to 6S, and then they have more power. So like it'd probably still fly, but like the question would be, why are you doing that? You're going to get less power and reduced flight time. So it's not like a good thing to do. The Donnie Llama, thank you for a $10 super chat. What other receiver should I get for a 7-inch long-range quad, and is the 1 watt that's in stock in the Boxer enough? The 1 watt module in the Boxer is more than enough for many things that most people are going to do. You should be able to get tens of kilometers off of it if your antenna setup is correct, and you're not flying behind a mountain and all the other things, all the other caveats. It is 2.4 gigahertz. Some people would say that they would rather be using 900 megahertz for long range, but 2.4 gigahertz can go longer than most people are going to go. What I would say is this. You start flying 7 inches on the 1 watt module that's in the Boxer. And if you don't get at least like 15 or 20 kilometers out of it, then your setup has an issue. A true long-range expert would easily be able to get 15 or 20 kilometers out of the Boxer's 1 watt module. So that'll sort of be your litmus test as to whether, because here's the thing, if you don't know how to set up a long-range quad, if you don't know how to do the antennas and how to actually do long range, then going to a higher powered 900 megahertz is going to get you a little more range, but not that much more, and you just really need to learn how to do it right. And when you can go 15 or 20 kilometers off that 1 watt module that's in the Boxer, then you might think, okay, well, maybe I need a 900 megahertz module that can go even further. As far as the receiver, for long range, I would definitely get a diversity receiver. What's the difference between the RP3 and the RP3H? What the hell is this? It's the RP3H. Oh, no. Yeah, so I might look at the RP3, which is a dual antenna diversity receiver. Does it have the temperature controlled oscillator? I'm never sure about that. I think it's a good choice, though. Yeah, it is a temperature controlled oscillator. It's a good quality diversity receiver, and that's probably what I would get. What about the That's the one for the 900 megahertz. Stop, go away. Oh no, RP4TD. What's the RP4TD? What's that? Oh, that's the true diversity. No, this is the one. For long range, true diversity is what you want. I see. So that one, the RP3 is just antenna diversity. No. The RP4TD is the one you want. What's the difference with the TDM then? Compact and lightweight. Gemini. No. Well, for 7-inch, you don't care about that. RP4TD. That's the one you should get. On a long range build, don't screw around with your receiver. If you lose the definition of long range, people say, well, what's long range? Is 2 kilometers long range? Is 10 kilometers? Is 100 kilometers? If you lose link and the quad you'll never get it back again because it's just in the mountain somewhere, that's long range. Insane FPV, thank you for $100 for a $10 super chat. I really thank you for a $100 super chat if you left one. I am building a long range drone, a 10-inch. I have DJI V2 goggles and G3. What's the longest range VTX and camera compatible with my goggles? Crap. First of all, don't use the Goggles 3 with a self-built drone today. Right now, the only air unit that the G3 is compatible with is the O3 air unit. The G3 is also compatible with DJI drones like the Avata 2 and so forth, but that's not what you're talking about. There is a bug between the G3 and the O3 air unit right now where basically they lose link and link doesn't come back and you lose your quad if you don't ever return to home. So do not use the Goggles 3 with the O3 air unit, period, today. That is a non-starter until DJI fixes the bug. Will they fix the bug? Probably. When will they fix the bug? No one knows. DJI knows. When they do, we'll let you know. Okay? So the V2 is your only choice between those two. And when used with the V2, the Vista air unit has like a 13 kilometer range. And I believe the O3 has like a 23 kilometer range. Blunty, do you agree, disagree, or no opinion on those numbers? We've had this conversation before.
Give me a second.
Are you looking it up? Do you have it written down somewhere?
It's in the Discord.
Yes. Blunty says, with the O3 and Vista on Goggles 2, the range limit is 13 kilometers.
V2,
oh, okay.
On Goggles V2.
The Goggles V2, thank you. I'm so sorry. That is an important distinction. With the O3 and the Vista, so if you're using the V2 goggles, it doesn't matter what air unit you have, your range limit is 13 kilometers, full stop.
No, wait.
That's what I said. Did I say it wrong? With the V2 goggles, it doesn't matter what air unit you're using. The range limit is 13 kilometers, full stop.
Yes.
That's what you wrote. With the Goggles 2 and Integra, it goes to 30 kilometers for the Vista and 23 kilometers with the O3, but that doesn't matter because you don't have the Goggles 2 or the Integra. And with the G3, don't use them because there's a bug that will cause you to lose video link and lose your video, lose your quad. So there you go. Pick the O3 or the Vista. It doesn't matter. 13 kilometers is how far you can fly maximum, though. Andy, thank you for a $5 super chat. I had a drone failsafe last week, and the spot where it dropped caused my cell service to cut out completely. Could that area cause my ExpressLRS link to drop? I mean, Andy, sure, right? You who knows? Without a spectrum analyzer, we can't say for sure. But, yes, interference could cause a failsafe. It would be weird for there to be interference that was affecting both the 2.4 gigahertz ExpressLRS and your cell phone frequencies, since those are not the same frequencies. But, hey, sure. Why not? It's possible. What do you think about the Goggle X extension board from Caddx? Yeah. What about that? Let's look at that. Thank you for a €5 super chat, French pilot. This is the Goggle X extension board, and they're giving it away free to people who have the Goggle X. Which, by the way, Caddx, meet me. Meet me over at camera 2. Cadix. I don't know what to make of you. Like, on the one hand, you say that you're going to have the second generation of your video system targeted for August 2024. Now it's the end of September. There's no sign of it. You said there was going to be an app, and it took forever, but there is technically an app now for your goggles, so cool. Like, you release the goggles, and they have this overheating problem. And, like, I kind of want to get on Cadix. I'm so annoyed with you. And then you do a cool thing like this. You release this extension board with these additional features. And you're like, yeah, we put them in the goggles. But if you already bought the goggles, don't worry. You can have it for free. That's such a good move. I don't know. I feel like Cadix is like that person that you date. And, like, they're kind of mean to you. And you're like, screw them. And then suddenly they're just love bombing you. And you're like, oh, this is so good. You know? And it feels, I don't know. But good move, Cadix, is what I'm trying to I'm so bad at compliments. They always come off like an insult. I don't know what my problem is. So cool, Cadix, that you did this. The expansion board has support for an analog adapter. Here,
this extension module is only compatible with the Avatar Goggles X models that do not have built-in head tracking. It integrates the head tracking function and fixes the compatibility of some analog receivers. When installing the module, make sure the white connector faces forward.
Looks good.
The shorter power cable connects to the goggles, while the longer one connects to the module.
Maybe it could be a little more compact.
The 5-pin end plugs into the goggles, and the 4-pin end plugs into the module. The pins of the analog receivers can be inserted into any row of the module's connectors.
What holds the analog module in?
Press and hold the return button for 5 seconds to switch to...
I'm sorry. What holds the module in? What holds the module in? Is it just sitting in there with friction, or does it actually click in? That's kind of important. I would want a little more. Doesn't look like there's any retention there, is my point. Is it just held in by the pins? We would need to double-sided sticky tape that or something. Could have done that a little better. People are pointing out that it could have been done with a new top plate. Yes, that also would have been nice if it was integrated into the top plate. Nevertheless, giving it away for free, that's kind of cool. Yeah. Does it add the head tracker as well? Does it add the head tracking functionality? I can't tell. I guess it would say if it did. Well, it doesn't say a lot, does it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it says
so that's kind of cool.
The head tracker.
It does have the head tracker. Oh, maybe that's what the PWM input is for. But then, no, that's the CVB. Where's the head tracker output?
So PWM on the third one.
2 Goggles X. Oh, is the head tracker on the other side? There's PWM, but that's a plug. 2 Goggles X. Oh, maybe DCN. I don't see a head tracker output. Well, anyway. That's cool. It could have been better integrated. It sucks that it's just double-sided sticky tape to the top, but I guess they didn't want to injection. I say they didn't want to injection mold a new plate, but they frickin' machined a new shell, so I don't know. Would be nice if it was better integrated, but that's cool. And they're giving it away for free. Why not? Do you have to put a voltage regulator to T-Motor 8S power combo? No. Not as long as you're using... So I think... Let's just double check. I'm not sure exactly which ESC and flight controller you're talking about, but presumably it's this one. And no, as long as you're using an 8S battery then or below, you don't need a voltage regulator. That's the whole point of it being 8S rated. Maybe I've misunderstood the question. Woonex, thank you for a $10 super chat. I've been using a set of goggles too that I'm going to give to my wife for ride-alongs. If I get the Integra, is it compatible? Or does it have to be another G2? No, it is compatible. You're good. Would you recommend the G3 with O3 quads? I explicitly would not recommend the G3 until they fix this bug, which they probably will soon, but they haven't yet. The bug that causes the O3 to lose connection to the G3. All right. We are caught up on Super Chats. Let's get back to the regular questions. If you want to leave some more Super Chats, I'll get them a little later in the stream. Do you really have to go to the original vendor you bought the Goggles X from? Asked Garda Rotor. That's my understanding. Rotor Riot said that they had been contacted by Cadix and had basically, or figured out like how that was going to work. And as I understand it, they need to verify that you bought the goggles before they give you the free expansion board. They're not just giving everyone in the world a free expansion board. You have to verifiably have bought a set of goggles, and the only person who can validate that is the vendor you bought them from. So if you bought them used on the secondary market, I think you're out of luck. But I'm not sure about that. I want to get this question from Harshal Patel. Is it flagged? Yeah, it is. My friend reverse connected the battery for a second. Oh, yeah, sure. My friend. Okay, I see what you did there. My friend reverse connected the battery for a second, and now my drone doesn't start. But it does with USB to Betaflight. Motors don't spin when controlled from Betaflight. There was no magic smoke. What to do? The fact that there was no magic smoke doesn't mean nothing got fried. If you reverse connected and it still worked, I'd be amazed. It's not impossible, but it's very unlikely that things didn't get damaged. It's very likely that things got damaged. Motors don't spin. You have to figure out what got fried, okay? The fact that the flight controller works from USB doesn't tell you much. When it's plugged into USB, it's getting 5-volt power from USB, and so any problems with the voltage regulators are completely sidestepped. The thing that's most likely to fry when you reverse bias the electronics is the voltage regulator, maybe some of the FETs, I'm not sure. So, when you plug in the battery, does the ESC go doo-doo-doo? If not, the ESC is probably fried. Okay? If the ESC goes doo-doo-doo, then probably the ESC is okay, but we would need to verify that everything works, just to double check that. Then does the flight controller power up? So it sounds like probably the flight controller might have smoked something. But basically you're just going to function check things one by one, and either the ESC or the flight controller or both are going to be damaged and probably need to be replaced. If you are very good at electronics repair and surface mount soldering and rework, you probably could find the broken component and fix it. But most people are not going to be able to do that. Okay. Is the range on a Radiomaster Pocket and a Boxer the same, with the only difference being the materials? They both have the same output power. Does it have 1 watt output power? I think it does. Let me double check. Express LRS. Where's the output power? LRS max power is hardware dependent. What does that mean? I think it's 1 watt. I think it's 1 watt. It doesn't say that. Assuming they both have 1 watt output power, sure. I mean, I would think they have similar design and similar module internally. So, Garda Rotor says 250 milliwatts. Oh, then, yeah, no. If they don't have the same output power, then the Pocket will have about half the range. If the Pocket's max power is 250 milliwatts, the Boxer's is 1 watt. That's 1/4 the power. That's about half the range. So there you go. Can I remove the TX max power 100 milliwatt limit on the Radiomaster Boxer Crush? Yes. The reason it has a 100 milliwatt limit is because it is in the EU or LBT, But it's the same thing. European Union, LBT, it's in that mode. What you have to do is you have to flash it or change it to FCC mode, and then it'll be fine. You'll get more than 100 milliwatts of power. That won't be legal to use in the European Union, but no one will really care. Levy FPV wants to know if I can answer Discord questions. I am answering Discord questions. Both Discord and YouTube questions are queued. We currently have 38 questions queued, so if it seems like I'm not getting into them, that's why. Here's a question from the Discord. Anthony Frisquet says, do you think the Zing 2s are worth the extra $5 over the Zing Pro in terms of durability? Probably not. No. I'd probably save $5 and get the Zing Pro and have an extra spare motor when I was bando bashing and breaking things. Here's another question from the Discord. Are AM32 ESCs progressing? Haven't seen much news since BLH32 shut down. I think it's too soon to tell. I haven't seen a huge influx of AM32 ESCs being sold. And it seems like BLH32 ESCs, well, it seems like everything's out of stock, actually. But I haven't seen a huge influx of AM32 ESCs. It seems like manufacturers are mostly still selling BLH32 ESCs. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was still a fairly strong pipeline. Like if I'm a manufacturer like T-Motor and I've got 20,000 ESCs sitting in the manufacturing pipeline, right? I'm not going to suddenly start selling AM32 ESCs. I'm going to wait for those BLH32 ESCs to sell through before I start shifting over, just to make sure that money doesn't get lost. That's my thinking. So I think it's going to be a little bit of time before we start to really see manufacturers abandon BLH32 and shift to AM32, seriously. Here's another question from the... Oh, no, that's not the Discord. This is AudioGek. I lost everything. What goggles should I go for now? Need digital and analog. AudioGek, money being no object, I would get a separate analog and digital goggle. I know that money is an object for most people, but if you want the absolute pie-in-the-sky answer, I think that if you get the HD0 goggles, they're a pretty decent analog goggle, but my gosh... I get so annoyed having that extra module hanging off the side of them. They're so big, they don't fit well in my backpack. When I'm using them, it's hanging off the side. I have to shift modes, go to analog, then to change channels up here. It's just like, and the amount of money that you're spending, I mean, it's not break even, but, when you add in the cost of the analog module and the so forth, like, my pie in the sky would be like the DJI 03 goggles or the DJI G2 goggles and the 03 Air unit for digital builds, and then like the SkyZone 04X Pro for analog, and now you've got freaking $900 in goggles, whatever. So there's more. It's not quite. I'm not sure that number is exactly right, but it's in the ballpark. And okay, so. If you're trying to do analog and digital in one goggle, well, the HD0 goggle is mighty tempting, but is HD0 the digital system that you actually love the most? Oh, well, I want to do Walksnail. Okay, well, the Walksnail Goggles X can do analog, but it's kind of a bad analog goggle. It's not great at it. It will do it, though, and it's a good Walksnail goggle. So, there's no perfect answer there. I can't tell you this is the goggle you should get. Because, I don't know what your priorities are. Are you going to fly mostly analog and then a little digital? Are you focused on racing or freestyle? Well, if you're super focused on racing, the HD0 goggle might start to look really compelling, and DJI might look really not compelling. If you do more sort of, park flying, well, maybe DJI or Walksnail is more compelling. It's a tough one, and there isn't a simple answer. Here's a question from the Discord from Just Mo. I got 2 questions from Bardwell. Is he going to do a review for the HD0 AIO? Yes. Also, I currently fly HD0 and DJI, but I prefer HD0. I might be moving to the Middle East, and I'm worried that parts are hard to come by. Should I stock up on parts, or don't worry about it till I get there? I have no idea what the situation is going to be wherever you arrive, Just Mo. How, there are people in the Middle East who import stuff. It depends heavily on which country you're in. Different countries have different rules. If you're in the UAE, the situation is going to be one way. If you're in Jordan, the situation is going to be another way. So, like, the exact situation is going to heavily depend on where you are and what kind of resources you have. I talked to one guy who said, yeah, every time I need drone parts, I go over to this other neighboring country and I buy the drone parts there, and then I bring them back over the border. And he didn't say what methods he used to get them over the border. He couldn't ship them in, but anyway. So if you do stock up and you arrive at the border, are they going to be like, hey, you can't have these things? I just don't know, and I'm just completely unprepared to answer this question. Best of luck to you. Let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, so... yeah, that's almost all of the questions from the Discord, so hopefully that gets us caught up there. Prodigy wants to know what strategies can help beginners in FPV racing quickly overcome the steep learning curve, especially when resources are scarce and the knowledge gap is large. I beat the drum, but it's practice in the sim. All the top racers practice in the sim and in real life, but in the sim. Also, Lexi Jansen, also known as Maionhigh, 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 has a video series she put out there called Train Insane. And it's basically a training program for racing. And there definitely will be people who say, well, what races has she won? And I don't know the answer to that, but I will say that, let's see, is this her Train Insane on Velocitron? Yeah. I will say that, like, you don't have to be a world-class racer. Like you don't have to be a 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 at skill to train somebody from a 0 out of 10 to a 3 out of 10, right? Like, if I looked at, like, let's say that I thought I was a 5 out of 10 in terms of racing. And actually, if you look at my placement in the last racing event I did, which was RaceGow, I was typically in the 50 to 60 percentile of the leaderboard. So, okay, let's say I'm a 5 out of 10 in racing. Well, if I look at you and you're a 4 out of 10, and you say, hey, what could I do to get better? I might be like, hey, I noticed a place where you blew out a line. You know, maybe your line could have been cleaner. But, like, mostly I'm going to be like, I don't know, I don't have a lot to offer you. But if I look at you and you're like a 0 out of 10 or a 1 out of 10, I probably could give you enough tips to get you to like a 3 out of 10 and still feel like I wasn't doing you a disservice. So, like, Lexi is a capable pilot and more than capable of training somebody who kind of is a beginner at racing and getting better. She has the Train Insane series, and she has her FPV Academy as well, and I think that that's worth looking into. I only say that because that's like one of the only organized racing tutorials that I'm aware of out there. I will also say that there's plenty of people out there who are great racing pilots who are not great instructors. And I'm not going to name names, clearly. Like, if you have the opportunity to get trained by a great racing pilot, you should totally take it. But there's people, I would rather take lessons from a person who's a 5 or 6 out of 10 as a pilot and a 10 out of 10 as an instructor than a person who's a 10 out of 10 as a pilot and like a 4 out of 10 as an instructor. And a lot of the best pilots don't necessarily know how to translate what they do into applicable skills that a beginner can take advantage from. Because either the pilot is so advanced that the things they say to do, the beginner can't even start to do them, or because they have such an innate level of skill and talent that they don't necessarily know why the things that they do work. They just know that when I do these things, I win races. But that doesn't necessarily mean they can communicate that to a person who's a beginner. So I don't think we should assume that just because somebody isn't like on the leaderboard of a million races, they can't be a good instructor.
I would also just suggest that, like, you could also just go to races, because like the only way that you're ever gonna, like, if you're getting into racing, right, that presumes that you're gonna have a place to race. So I would suggest going to races. Like the way, like you said, maybe the top pilots are good at training, or random pilots are good at training, but there's a lot of pilots at a race, and they all learned how to fly right from nothing. So I'm sure they could give you pointers. They could tell you what you might want to buy, or what they use, or how they race there, or how, you know what I mean? And get an idea of like what's around there. Get something that they like or use, and that kind of gets you in with them. And then, I don't know, I think that's also a very good way to go, right? Like, you're going to be racing with somebody. So once you have the basics down, then I would say maybe like learn from the people who are doing it.
Yeah.
A lot of the communities are very friendly. Like, if you go, if you ask people, they will just help you. Like, how do you train every day? They will tell you, right? They will, you know, like, very few people are trying to hide something.
Yeah, absolutely. The number one predictor of success at racing is the number of hours you practice in the sim, I would say. And it doesn't mean that everyone who puts in hours in the sim is going to be a top racer. There is a certain amount of innate talent, ability, and some people are just going to inherently rise higher than others, even with the same amount of effort, okay? But, like, I've known multiple people who said, I want to be a good racer or a better racer. And then they just started seriously practicing, and they just worked, and they just put in every day an hour in the sim, or, you know, whatever. And then on the weekends, 3 hours at the real track with their real quads, and just grinding laps, okay? And every single one of them got substantially better. And, like, one of them is Evan Turner's dad, Kevin Turner. He also races. And Kevin Turner and I used to go to races, and we were about as good as each other. We were both pretty mediocre. And we had fun. I had fun. I think he had fun too. Competing with each other, be like, oh, who's gonna be better? And then he started practicing a lot, and I didn't. And now he just whips my butt at every race. And it's like, I'm like, oh, why didn't I practice a lot? So, like, if you really want to get better, there's absolutely no substitute for just get in the simulator, pick a track, and then try to get faster. And try to figure out the things you need to do to get faster. And if you find yourself plateauing, that's the point where now you shouldn't spend hours and hours riding a plateau. Like, if you hit a ceiling and you don't know how to break through the ceiling, that's when it makes sense to reach out to somebody and say, what could I be doing differently to break through this plateau, break through this ceiling, and get better? But as long as you're seeing progress, you know, keep working. And keep putting in that time, because especially with racing, where like repeatability and predictability and so forth are so important, there's no substitute for stick time.
I just also want to say, I think it's, if you don't do stuff like this a lot, like learn new skills that take, you know, like a racing, that's a competitive thing. It's good to remember that, like, it's way better for you to do like 30 minutes every day than it is for you to do 8 hours on a weekend.
That's probably true. Yeah,
you're going to learn that there's something about muscle memory. If you do it and then sleep and then do it and then sleep, you start to build this like extra level. I think you sort of cheat the time. That's just a suggestion I would give you, is just try to do it every day for as long as you can, you know, a short time.
Yeah. But be aware of when your practice is not producing results anymore.
For sure.
Because there does come a point where either you're burned out or you've hit a skill ceiling and you need to do something differently to break through. And when you hit that point, continuing to grind is potentially just going to burn up your energy and time without giving you progress. So that's why I think racing is so interesting, because like there are metrics. Either you're getting faster or you're not. Either you're higher in the leaderboard or you're not. And with freestyle, it's very sort of more subjective. And I think that's why racers are better pilots by and large than freestyle pilots. Here's a question.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Velocitron also lets you watch ghosts, so just don't forget that, like, if you do plateau, one of the ways you can help is watching a ghost of somebody 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds ahead of you, and watch the lines they take, and you're going to see stuff you're like, I don't even understand what happened. But if you keep watching it, look at their throttle and sticks, you can sort of start to learn a lot from that as well.
Yeah. My favorite way to progress in racing games, and I'm thinking more about like video games like auto racing simulators and so forth, is to get a ghost lap of a person who is just a few seconds faster than you. Well, maybe fractions of a second, depending on, you know, but a person who's just a little bit faster than you but not so much faster that they just leave you in their dust. And then follow them and see where they pull ahead of you. Like, for the first 4 turns of the race, I'm faster, but then on the 5th turn, they pull ahead, and then they leave, then I can't catch them for the rest of the race. Okay, why were they faster on the 5th turn? Did they take a different line than you? Do you just need to push harder through the turn? And then you just keep working that turn until you figure out what to do to beat them through the turn, and then you beat that ghost, and then you just pick the next ghost that's just a little bit faster than you, and I think it's a great way to progress. Yeah. Here's a question from Lev's Terror, who says, I have a Beta FPV Air 75 and my range is so bad. I have negative 99 dBm in about 50 meters, and it says lost telemetry. Do you have any idea why? Make sure that your Express LRS packet rate is not at one of the higher packet rates. If you're on the packet rate like F1000, and a lot of radios ship with the F1000 packet rate set as default, which I think is a terrible idea because that is the shortest range packet rate. It has the worst range. And so it has the lowest latency, but who cares about that? Take that packet rate down to like 50 hertz or 150 hertz or maybe 250 hertz, and I think you'll get much better range. That's my guess as to what's happening. 123456 wants to know, why are LiPo prices so different between shops? Batteries of the same capacity cost twice as much in different shops. What makes the price of a LiPo? You should know that the battery's capacity is only one of the specifications. We've also got the voltage, but I assume you're looking at the same voltage, 6S, 4S, whatever. And then we've got the C rate. And between the C rate and the milliamp hours, there's a lot of marketing bullshit. 2 batteries that are both rated 100C and 1300 milliamp hour 6S, one of them might be significantly higher quality cells. And so, like, that's probably the difference of the cost. One of them is probably much, like if it says it's 130C or something, it's probably actually closer to that C rating. It's a much higher C rated cell, much higher quality cell. Whereas the other one may have the label that says it's 100C or 130C, but it actually is a lower quality cell. On the other hand, there's batteries that are very good and are budget priced, and there's batteries that are super expensive that don't actually perform proportional to their price. It is nice to see Chris Rosser doing some battery testing. I actually loaned him I used to have a battery testing machine that I didn't end up using as much as I had hoped I would. And when Chris Rosser said he was getting into battery testing, I sent it over to him, and he has borrowed it for indefinitely. It's on an indefinite loan. Yeah, so he tested a bunch of batteries. That was 10 months ago. You can look at this testing and maybe see which of these batteries has the best price to performance ratio for you. So that is Chris Rosser, you can see on screen right here. As a beginner, should I build a 3-inch or a 5-inch drone? That's a tough one. If you've practiced and know how to fly in the simulator, I think a 5-inch is fine. A 3-inch is certainly going to be a lot safer and cheaper probably, and less damage if you crash it. So I wouldn't discourage you from flying a 5-inch, especially if you're looking to get into racing and 5-inch is what you're going to race. But if you're a little hesitant, if you're concerned about the 250 gram weight limit, 3 inches is certainly the way to go. That's what I would say about that. DJI Goggles 2 versus Goggles 3 versus Integra. Don't get the G3 until they fix the bug where it loses link to the O3 Air unit. The G2 and the Integra are basically a toss-up. The Integra has a few features removed, but they're features that I think are not deal breakers for a lot of people, like the adjustable focus. You have lens inserts instead of adjustable focus. That's fine. Removable antennas. The Integra doesn't have removable antennas. That's fine. The Integra has a built-in battery on the headband. Many people will see that as a plus. I kind of like that the G2 has a separate battery. Other people feel differently. Integras are way less expensive. So most people these days should probably buy the Integra. Integras and G2 also have backwards compatibility with the Vista air units, whereas the G3 does not, and probably will not, I would guess, although that's just a guess. Where did I get this shirt, the Cinnamon Roll Whoop shirt? The creator sent it to me years ago, and I still have it. Let's see. Let's see here. Huh. Why are those... Oh, I see the problem. I'm fucking up. I'm screwing up the... There we go. Recommended in-stock Foxeer Predator 5 video transmitter. Foxeer Predator 5, that's a camera. What are you talking about? That's the Predator is a camera, not a video transmitter. I don't know what you're talking about. Alrighty, great. Anybody make sense of this question for me? Do you mean the Reaper? Okay. What are the best batteries for the Fat Shark Dominator in the UK? As far as goggle packs go, I like to use this. You're not going to put it on your head. You're going to put it in your pocket with a cable. I like to use like a 6S2P lithium ion. It's heavy, but boy, it'll run your goggles all day. If you want something lighter, you can get a little 2S battery. Race Day Quads makes a... Guys, Blunty... John Bernard Shaw. Blunty, say hello to John Bernard Shaw, please.
Hello. I've been speaking most of the show.
What do you mean you miss him being involved in the show? He's involved in the show. He's been chiming in throughout the show. He's here.
I love Stream Chat.
I love Stream Chat. Blunty, this is actually not Blunty. I actually fired Blunty and replaced him with an AI. Yeah, that's right. He's not involved anymore. It's like I can hear his... It's like he's in the room with me now. Yeah, almost exactly like that. Okay. He's probably getting this mixed up with the news. Blunty is also involved in the news! I don't do the news without him.
Camera. Like, why am I not on camera? Maybe that's what he means.
You've never been on camera for the Q&As, though.
Right. That's why the news. That's what...
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. He's involved. Anyway, glad we could clear that up for you. It's so good to be back. Let's see. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm completely derailed now. What's your take on the DJI Goggles 3 plus O3 signal loss bug? Why isn't the community putting more pressure on DJI to fix this? Is the community in the room with you now? Where is the community? I hate that term. This will now segue into a rant about... Blunty, you want to get in on this? About how I hate the term. We're going to rant about how we hate something. I feel like that's right up your alley. The community. What is the...
I queued this because I knew you would rant about it.
You did? Oh, I'm so predictable.
100%.
Why isn't the community? What does that even mean? What would it mean for the community to pressure DJI? Do you mean Madstech would be writing letters to them? Madstech did write an open letter to them. Is Madstech the community? No. Why aren't you writing a letter to them? Did you? You and a whole bunch of other people did. What is not happening that you would like to see happening that would make you feel like the community was pressuring them more? Serious question. Serious question. I mean this. Because, like, I obviously, when I hear the words the community, I start a rant about how meaningless that phrase is. But I'm curious what you think, what you mean by that. So ID Drew.
He says, meaning people who bought 03 and are suffering this issue, I did write an email to them. But yeah, man, how do you know the other people didn't too?
So did all the other people. Let's not be mad at. Let's take it easy on ID Drew. Okay. I don't want to like yell at him. He's not actually the source of our ire, or the target of our ire. Yeah, but as Blunty said, I'm sure a whole bunch of people contacted them. Right? So like, you wrote an email. So did a bunch of other people. I think the community is pressuring them.
I'll just say, he says, as a leader in software engineering, it baffles me that something so serious is not fixed yet. And I'm going to guess that means you're new to the hobby or have not used DJI before.
Yep.
So the problem is we're like the ugly stepchild who nobody ever looks at because we're not a lot of money to DJI. We're like a division of DJI. I'm just explaining this I'm trying to explain this for real because I'm assuming you don't understand, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like
that's why I don't want to be mad at him or angry at him.
Yeah.
We're salty about this topic, but he's just poked a wound. Go ahead.
Yeah, DJI is a multi-billion-dollar company, and the FPV side of the thing could close today, and nobody would care. That's how small FPV is. We're slowly getting larger. They're slowly adding a little bit to each thing, but there's not a lot of development there compared to everything else. And that means that we have bugs and odd things that just stick there for years and sometimes never get fixed, or randomly get fixed 2 years later into the release cycle when they decide to throw the patch in. There's a chance that, this will get fixed in 3 months. This will get fixed in a week. This will get fixed never, right? That's sort of how DJI rolls. It's like whatever ticket this gets on, whoever's feathers get ruffled the right way. Well, if it's a Tuesday and it's cloudy, right? We don't really know why, but this happens a lot of the time. One of the things just think about, right, is like the DJI Goggles V2. You still cannot keep Vistas and O3s bound at the same time. Yet when you switch, you have to rebind the Vista. When you switch, you have to rebind the O3.
That has existed for 5 years.
But that was fixed on the Goggles 2 and the Integra, right? So and I know you're saying this is way more critical, you're blacking out in flight, but I'm just saying DJI looks at these things as they're critical as they can be for a division of the company that's small in a billion-dollar company that doesn't really care about us.
Yeah. And it's weird because I will say that public pressure, I don't think has a lot to do with their decision-making process. So when people say, why aren't people applying more pressure? I'm like, well, I don't it doesn't matter because they're going to do what they're going to do. And it's not that they're not aware of the public pressure. And I think it's not that they don't care. It's just that they are a enormous bureaucracy, a giant corporate machine. And so somewhere there's a community manager who is like, oh my God, people are losing their freaking minds about this. And that person goes into a meeting with 17 other people who are decision makers and influencers. And they say, hey, people are losing their mind about this bug. It's a big deal. And then somebody else is like, some other reason why they shouldn't fix it because they have other priorities. And eventually a decision is made. And from our perspective, it's obvious that this is an absolute showstopper of an issue that absolutely needs to be fixed. And then from their perspective, there's 17 other priorities that we're not aware of. That means that things don't always work out the way that it obviously seems like they should. So if people aren't pressuring DJI, it's because they've been around. It's like the two guys up on the gallows and one says first time. Is your first time dealing with a showstopper DJI bug and you don't realize that making a big stink about it in public letter writing campaign isn't the thing that's going to make DJI decide or not to decide to fix it? That there's some pressure from guys like Madstech is very nice. That there's pressure from users is nice. But they're going to fix it when they fix it. But it's not. It's I'm not at all surprised that this happened, and it is absolutely not in any way unprecedented that a new DJI product has some kind of a showstopper bug with the FPV functionality, and we just have to sit there and suck it up until they finally decide to get off their ass and fix it, or maybe they don't. For a bug like this, it seems like they'll fix it, but I mean. I don't know. The 04 is going to come out. Do they really care about 03 backwards compatibility? I think they do, or they wouldn't have released it in the first place. So I think they'll fix it, but I don't know. The other thing people are saying is why aren't they fixing it faster? It's just somebody said, 6 to 8 hours of development time. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. What you have is a showstopper bug that's causing total link loss without recovery. Even if it was one line of code to fix it, the actual validation of the fix testing that the fix was reliable, testing on all different hardware, rolling it out. That whole process would be potentially weeks or maybe even more. So DJI isn't going to just hit a button and release a patch that hasn't been thoroughly tested, probably. So, yeah. Welcome to the issue. I do think they're working on it, and I do think they're going to fix it. That's the other thing. If they're working on it and they're going to fix it, writing them more letters won't make them do it faster. Yeah. Anyway. Let's take some more super chats. We got super chats coming in. Is Darwin FPV cement stack really able to plug in an 8S battery? I don't know. It says it's 8S rated. Like, what do you want? Does it say it's 8S rated? It's not 8S rated. Okay. No. Then the answer is no. I assumed from your question that it was 8S rated. It seems like it's not. Is it 6S rated? Well, is it or isn't it? 6S stack. What's the frickin' rating? Flight controller. No, it says 8S. 8S LiPo to the flight controller, ESC, 8S LiPo to the ESC. I don't know, man. It says 8S. It says 8S, then it's 8S rated. I would plug it in. Like, you're going to believe him or you're not going to believe him, right? Patrick Buckley, thank you for a very generous $50 super chat. No message attached to it, but thank you for your donation. It's very generous of you. We'll keep an eye out if you meant to ask a question. There we go. I thought so. Patrick was going to grumble about all the FPV drones being the same carbon fiber X frame, and as a showboy, if there were any upcoming drones with a different look. I mean, the reason that they're all a carbon fiber X frame is because that's what works the best for 5-inch, 7-inch, etc. As you get into larger drones, you get a little more variety, but it's a question of form following function. And there's a reason. If you really want to get into something like 3D printed frames with the thing is that as soon as you crash those, they just explode and they don't have any durability. So there's a reason things are the way they are. We got a 2,000 Hungarian florins from a person whose name I'm sure I would mispronounce. So thank you to Roland, Mr. Roland. When I arm my quad, which is equipped with a DJI O3 and I want to take off, my quad flips off and turns off. Before I installed the O3, I didn't have this problem. Well, suffice it to say, installing the air unit, changing the video transmitter won't make the quad flip over and turn off. It shouldn't. It makes me wonder if that when you were installing it, you messed up the ESC or messed up the motor direction somehow. And that's why it's flipping over. The other thing I can't tell from your question is, does it flip over like the props are on wrong or the motor direction is wrong? Or does it take off or arm and then lose power? Did you do something when you installed the O3 that's causing it to power down? But my first guess is you put the props on wrong and that's why it's flipping over. Yeah. I would need to know more about exactly how it flips over. Yeah, Nathan T, motor order could be wrong, but there's no reason for him to have changed his motor order if all he did was change the VTX.
If you reflash, then it could be one of any number of things.
Could be anything.
Right? It could be motor order or the direction or the direction of the flight controller or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you reflash it and you didn't mention that? So. Presumably, it was flying fine. He did not reflash it. He just changed the VTX, and that's all he did. And then he just updated. He changed the configuration.
Yeah, Tom saying his flight controller's upside down. So either he flashed it and he didn't change the flight controller, and then he has to change it, right? Yeah, or the flight controller got changed, and but that's something that that's relevant to the question, right? So
Well, he's only got so many. He's only got so many characters to use on the super chat, though. So
yeah,
that may be why he didn't tell us. Be Free Bail Bonds. Thank you for a $5 super chat. I have always used analog, and I'm just getting into HD. I have the Avatar system now. Can I use any analog 5.8G antenna, or do I need a specific one for digital? Most of the digital systems use left-hand polarized antennas. Most analog systems use right-hand polarized. If you have a left-hand antenna on your VTX and a right-hand on your goggle, or vice versa, you will get reduced range. So you generally want that polarization to match. The whole analog versus digital doesn't matter. So if you have right-hand polarized antennas on your goggles and right-hand polarized antennas on your quad, then that's fine. But you should know that the Avatar system ships with left-hand polarized antennas by default. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Robocopter wants to know. No, a hot dog is a taco. 3 sides. Okay. No, that's not right. Yeah, there we go. Cube rule. The cube rule of food identification. Are hot dogs sandwiches? New York says yes. The state of New York. No, that's just defining it for tax purposes, though. That doesn't mean anything. So, here's what we got. How do we define a sandwich? And we have structure and ingredients, right? You have to just decide where you are in the sandwich alignment chart. Let me zoom this out slightly. There we go. So, I mean, a hot dog is not really a sandwich structurally, right? A sandwich, sort of by definition, is like 2 pieces of bread with stuff in between them. I'm willing to be flexible on the ingredients. So, like, if I took a hot dog bun and I broke the bun apart, would that be a sub-sandwich? It would be more of a sandwich. Like, a burrito is clearly not a sandwich. A chicken wrap is clearly not a sandwich.
Just to be clear, I think somebody in chat said 3 sides. Doesn't that mean a club sandwich isn't a sandwich? No, we're saying like 3 edges of coverage of the internal.
How does a club sandwich have 3 sides?
Because you cut it into a triangle.
No. 1, 2. If it's 1, 2, 3, that's a taco. That's not a sandwich, right? I think I'm willing to be
of ingredients.
A little flexible about the ingredients. Like, for example, an ice cream sandwich is a sandwich. Like cookie ice cream. I'm fine calling that a sandwich. But I think I'm more of a purist when it comes to structure. Right? So I would probably be an ingredient rebel, a structure purist, would be my personal stance. Like, this is just madness over here. So then we come to the cube rule, the grand unified theory of food identification. And this really appeals to sort of the academic in me. We have toast, or an open-faced sandwich. We have a sandwich. We have a taco. Sushi, right? Or a roll. Like, there's some hot dogs where you take a baguette and you basically hollow out the baguette, and then the hot dog goes down the middle, and so you basically got a roll of bread around the hot dog. Soup, salad, bread bowl, calzone. Again, by this definition, a hot dog is a taco. There you go. So we got toast. Yep, good. Love it. Makes sense, doesn't it? We got sandwiches, obviously. And notice that we're ingredient neutral. Ooh, Victoria sponge cake. Is that a sandwich? I mean, that's a cake. That's different. A layer cake is not a sandwich. But I'm willing to, if it has to be something, it's a sandwich. We got taco, hot dogs, uncut sub sandwich, taco, side taco, pia, sushi. Love it. See, it all works. It's all clean, simple. Pita sandwich.
I think the idea that a bread bowl is a quiche is a little weird to me, but
well, quiche
I understand the
quiche
idea.
is just a generalization. We could name the category. We have to name the category something. Like I would call this category bread bowl. Right?
Sure. In the context of sandwich or taco.
Or pita. Or pita. Yeah. We could call it pita. Right?
No.
Pouch. I don't know. No, I don't like calling it quiche. I also don't like calling this one sushi either, frankly. I'm not sure what I would call it. A wrap. No. Because a wrap could be, see, the quiche, if you have a wrap that's closed on one side, then it's a bowl. But if you have a wrap that's open on two sides, then it's a wrap. So that's a trickier one. Right? This works. This fucking works. Burrito, corn dog, pie, whole pie, done. Anyway. Oh, additional rulings. Wait, there's more. Salad. A salad is no starch. Got it. Love it. So that means a steak is a salad. Perfect. Good. And then we distinguish a cake. Perfect. Now it's perfect.
Okay, wait. So this means that a club sandwich is a cake because it has 3 layers of bread.
Correct. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. Because otherwise a cake is a sandwich, and I find that more offensive. I find it more offensive to call a cake a sandwich than to call a club sandwich a cake. We have to make some concessions here.
Nachos, that's a great
Oh, it's so good. Oh, it's so good. All right. Well, when I first saw that super chat, I thought, oh God, not the hot dog question again. Oh well, for a $2 super chat, I guess I'll do it. And now I'm really glad I did. That was very enjoyable for me. Let's continue. M-Dub, thank you for a $5 super chat. My buddy flies with his controller set to mode 3. I fly mode 2. Is there an easy way to fly each other's quads without having to reconfigure? Yeah, what you do is you kick your buddy in the nuts while he's flying, and then when he falls over, grab his controller, reconfigure it to mode 2, put it back in his hands, and say, do it right. Done. Problem solved. You don't have to reconfigure betaflight. All you would have to do... How would I do this in real life? I think if you just go into radio setup and change the control mode, it will make that change. Let's find out.
Yeah. You could also do it like in a model if you swap the channels.
But it's a radio. It's not the channel order. So the radio... By the way, you like my legs? You like my shorts? Yeah. Check these out. You know you're classy if you got suede Crocs. Suck it, Europeans! You got suede Crocs over there? You don't have suede Crocs. You may have your teeth all in your mouth because you have dental care. You ain't got no suede Crocs, though. Marca. So you've got the physical controls of the gimbals, and those are mapped to the control inputs. And I think, we're going to find out right now, that if I just make that change... You're going to learn something. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go... You can't see this because the camera is there. I could set the... Hang on. Give me 1 second. I could do this. I can do this. I have the power. Oh... And we turn that on. Then we go to overhead cam. Boom! It's almost like I'm a professional at this. Every so often, I feel like I'm good at my job. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, if you look right now, model, page, no, I got it, I got this. Yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the channel monitor. And you'll notice that channel 3 is the throttle, and channel 4 is the yaw axis, okay? So now, I'm going to go sys, system, radio setup, and here we go. We're going to change the mode from mode 2 to mode 3. And I think that now the channel mapping should be the same. So channel, nope, it sure isn't. The channel mapping changed. Okay, I was wrong. Okay, so you would need to have separate models.
Wait. No,
what?
But you're saying the throttle should be on the right, right? Like it moved 3 before and now it moves 2. So that
yeah, but my point was that I was hoping that changing the radio mode would change which stick controlled the throttle, but not which channel the throttle was on. You follow? But it didn't.
Gotcha.
It didn't. It didn't work like I thought. So, yeah, I was hoping there was one more layer of abstraction than there actually is. So never mind. First, let's put my radio back to the sane mode. So what you would have to do is you would have to create a second model with the channels remapped to a different order. Or you would just have to bind his quad to your radio. There's various ways to do it. But I stand by my first recommendation. Oops, that's not right. Which is convince your buddy to fly mode 2 like a freaking normal person. Okay. Sunshine, is that you? Sunshine says, wouldn't you have to change the channel mapping in Betaflight? No. What I'm suggesting is you would go into the mixer screen and you would change the channel order in the radio so that the Betaflight channel mapping was the same. Then you would remap the channels in the radio so that the order is the same. Captain Dronyverse says, how do I lock Betaflight so if somebody stole my quad, they can't do anything to change the setup? I'm not even sure that that's possible. Blunty, do you fly mode 3?
Yep.
Will you stand over here, please? And look the other direction? I'm gonna need to kick you in the nuts. I'm sorry. Why do you fly mode 3? I remember this story. Tell the people why you fly mode 3.
The reason I fly mode 3 is because I don't care about flying anybody else's equipment. So the way I went into learning was that when I started, I tried all 4 modes. I switched my radio, to try the other 2, and I tried throttle on the right with both, and I tried throttle on the left with both, and I could fly in about the first minute with mode 3, and the others I would flip and crash in the ground. So my assumption is that I have some inbuilt learned something from Xbox controllers playing Battlefield or similar games where I'm flying helicopters, and that's how I have the authority. Because on Xbox, at least on the Battlefield that I've played, the right stick is throttle. So that's my guess, is that I just have that inbuilt thing. So my thought was, why would I waste the muscle memory? Because I don't care about flying anybody else's anything anyway. Let's just use it, and we'll start off good. And I was able to get around a racetrack in like 30 minutes. So I feel like that was beneficial.
Okay, I don't think you should tell people, because someone in the chat, Justin Mueller in the chat, is like, nobody ever told me I could try other stick modes. And I feel like this is going the exact opposite of the direction that I would like the conversation to go. Because now people are like, wait, you can do that? And I'm like, don't do that! Just fly mode 2, you freaking...
Just to be clear, at least the historical thing has always been that US is mode 2 and UK is mode 1. But I don't know if that's still the case.
I think it's Australia, isn't it? That's mode 1.
Oh, I thought
is
it was
also
like Europe.
UK? I don't know.
Okay.
European people tell us the truth. Historically, if you're in like Europe or UK or Australia or New Zealand, like tell us where you're from and whether historically your people fly mode 1. You know, in Australia and New Zealand, they actually hold the controller upside down because they're Because, no, it's not a very...
That's a good one. I also want to tell chat.
No, it's not. Don't encourage me.
I also want to tell chat, if you're already flying, like if you're here and you've flown in the sim for a couple hours, I would not switch.
Don't switch, yeah.
And that's because you've already gotten past the point, I think, of where you've started to unlearn that previous muscle memory. Now, maybe it's worth a try anyway. I mean, you could do what you want. It's your life. But I would say if you're a couple hours in, unless you're just crashing the ground every time you take off, I would just go with where you're at.
Yeah. Try mode 2. I would say try mode 2. Give it a few hours, and if it's just really not clicking for you, maybe a different mode. But there's a huge advantage to flying in mode 2.
Okay. If you really want to fly with other people and stuff, then I agree. But I think there's a lot of people like me who don't give a shit about somebody else grabbing my radio. I don't care. I could care less about any of that. It's more than that,
though. It's more than that. I'm going to argue a little bit, even though I respect your opinion. I'm going to argue. It's like, it'd be like saying, I'm going to drive in the United States, but I'm going to buy a car with right-hand drive. Well, I don't care about driving anybody else's car. I'm only going to drive my own car, but I'm going to buy a right-hand drive car. And the thing is, like, it's not okay. So like that, the roads are set up for left-hand drive, etc. It's not a perfect analogy, but the point is, not only are you locking yourself out of flying anybody else's gear, but also, like, if I go to take a class, right? If I'm looking at a stick overlay for a trick tutorial, if I fly mode 3 and I look at a mode 2 stick overlay, I'm not going to innately and intuitively understand what the sticks are doing. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to be like, oh wait, where's the throttle? Oh, I see. You know, and if I go take a lesson, if I'm trying to learn how to race and the guy's like, you know, so like I feel like there's more to it than just I don't care about flying other people's drones. I think it's a little bigger than that.
I'll just say I have not encountered any of those issues.
Well, you're actually living it, so I guess that carries some weight. Hunt Boom says, any recommendations for a 4-inch long-range analog drone? Flywoo Explorer is sold out everywhere. Same with the GepRC Baby Croc. What about the Recon? HDLRC Recon? I only say that, like, I can't personally vouch for it being an amazing drone, but it's one of the other bind and fly long ranges that people sell. REKON. Holy crap. We got another $50 super chat. People are very generous today. Are you still playing with that Pixhawk drone platform? Yeah, I am. Think there's room in Betaflight for automation beyond GPS return? Hard to say. The Betaflight devs would have to buy into it. I do think someone's working on altitude hold in Betaflight, but the problem is that the devs are very resistant. I say the problem. I don't mean the problem as in like what the devs are doing is wrong. I mean that when in the past people have tried to add more autonomous capability to Betaflight, one of the things that the devs have said is that they don't want to add this feature, which then they have to maintain and support when this guy who wrote the feature and submitted it maybe goes off into, you know, gets married or goes to school or stops maintaining it. And it creates this burden on them that then there's this feature that maybe when they go to the next version of Betaflight, it doesn't work, or it has some bug, or it needs to be fixed, and now they have to do it. So in addition, as the code base gets bigger, there's less, it sometimes doesn't fit into flash memory, it adds processing overhead, yada, yada, yada. So I think that the devs have been very resistant to adding those features, even if maybe they would be relatively simple to add because of the sort of overhead that adding the features creates. That just isn't the direction Betaflight as a project seems to want to go. That's not their forte. It's not what the devs are interested in. And I think this, I can't say that it won't happen, but I don't know if I was surprised when they made GPS rescue a thing because they hadn't really done that for quite a long time. So.
Yeah, we're getting better stuff in 4.6 again. I think they're doing another pass on all that.
Yeah,
like altitude hold, right?
Brandon Bean says Betaflight 4.6 has altitude hold merged in. So maybe they're going more that direction, you know. But there's definitely been resistance to that in the past. C. Joe says, I'm planning on building a chase rig for slower cars. Probably run cam thumb. Should I go 5-inch or 7-inch, and what battery? At the speeds you're talking about, either 5-inch or 7-inch could work. You absolutely will get longer flight times off a 7-inch. So a lot of people chase drift cars with a 5-inch, and it works really well. The agility really makes a lot of sense when the car is changing direction often, as drift cars do. But boy, the flight time on a 7-inch is going to beat the pants off a 5-inch. So it's a question of how much agility do you need and how often do you want to change your battery. You know, with a 5-inch, you're going to be changing your battery every 3 minutes. With a 7-inch, it's going to be a little bit easier. I also would be tempted to build a 7-inch with a Medlin gimbal, Medlin. It's a gimbal that lets the camera look up and down. And for car chasing, it's really good because you can kind of slow down and look down, and you can look up and change your up tilt while you're flying. I think it's pretty freaking cool. Sunshine says they built a 6-inch chase quad, and it's perfect. Yeah, split the difference. Who's the best freestyle pilot right now and why? Some 14-year-old that no one's ever heard of. No, I don't know. I'm not going to. Thank you for a $5 donation. I'm going to pass on saying who's the best right now. Is the Meteor 65 good for beginners? It's either this or the Mob 6 2024. I would get the Mob 6 over the Meteor 65 personally. I think the Mob 6 2024 is very, very good. And I think it's better than the Meteor 65 in every way except the frame. The Meteor frame is very good and very durable. But every other way, I think the Mob 6 is better. Tim Rules, thank you for a €6 super chat. Why does my XYZ graph and gyroflow disappear when I use VQF integration method? No idea, my friend. I'm very sorry, and I appreciate your donation. But I'm not even sure I've ever used VQF integration in gyroflow, so I'm afraid I just cannot answer that question. If anybody can answer the question, feel free to jump in, and I guess I'll owe you €6. Yeah. Meat Hooks. Who's my favorite freestyle pilot? Who have I been watching lately? I'm trying to think. Oh, no. I clicked a button by accident. I almost ended the stream. I was trying to click to bring up a window, and I almost ended the stream. That was been so embarrassing. Well, this is not a new recommendation. I've loved this guy for a while, but one of my favorites is Lumpy FPV Wilbur, creator of the famous Gap Blast. This guy is a freaking amazing pilot, and just always bringing the hotness. Quite a good pilot, and well worth a look. Where's a good Gap Blast? Just fast, precise, and I cannot imagine how many quads he explodes trying to get these tricks. Whoo, right? Just a great pilot. So yeah, well worth a look. How do you like this one? Ready? That's right. Did you see that? Did you see it? It went by so fast you might not even have seen it. Insane. Maddie back through the window, back out the door. How do you even? How many attempts did he explode before he actually got that? I don't even want to know. So if you don't know this guy, he's incredible. Okay, he didn't make it through on that one. We'll call him out. Thank you. Your video has been so helpful to this noob. Thank you for a $5 super chat. We are almost done with the stream. I'm going to go back through the questions and look for questions from the Discord for folks, just to make sure the patrons feel the love. We got a question here from Downshift who says, what do you think of running the Vaz Skyhammer with a True RC sniper on a rapid fire module? Those are good antennas. Trying to go long range with a 7-inch. One thing to keep in mind is that when you're doing long range, diversity doesn't really matter. You are just going to have one high gain antenna on one antenna, and a lot of people will turn diversity off entirely when doing long range, so it doesn't switch between them when it doesn't need to. So, yeah. So just get one good quality high gain antenna. We got a question here from R. Wilson who says, why are there more quads? Why aren't more quads being built with head trackers? With a multi-rotor, an FPV multi-rotor, you usually want the camera angle fixed relative to the quad frame so that you know what angle the quad is at by looking at the camera. It's only relatively specialized cases where you want to be able to look up and down, and even then, being able to look left and right. It is really hard to fly acro mode while a gimbal is looking left, right, up, and down, because you're constantly having to retranslate what the orientation of the quad is. When you're flying in an autonomous mode or an assisted mode, then it's a little bit different. You can kind of lock it in, and it'll hold altitude and direction while you look somewhere else. But for an FPV drone, you just don't want that. So that's probably why. Got a question here from Niluna in the Discord. Niluna is trying to choose a video system. Want to be able to fly in my apartment with a tiny whoop and maybe outdoor with a 5-inch later. If flying indoors is a priority for you, I would think hard about whether digital is the right choice versus analog. Yes, the Walksnail 1S VTX does exist, and there are some pretty good flying drones that come with it. But it's bigger, it's a little bit heavier. It doesn't have the durability of analog for sure. It's certainly more expensive. If I was going to fly indoors, especially as a beginner who hadn't really invested a lot, like if I already had a ton of Walksnail drones, and I wanted one for indoor, then I just buy one with the Walksnail 1S. But if I was starting from scratch, I think I would be tempted to think about analog. There's a lot of benefits of analog when you get down to the very, very small indoor drones. And yeah, there's advantages to digital too, but sometimes I think maybe the juice isn't worth the squeeze, if you will. I'm wondering about HD0. Yeah. HD0 also a good system. On the little drones, it's one of the lightest and has great latency. It does consume more power and has more heat buildup. I haven't tried the AIO yet. I have it. I just haven't gotten around to trying it. Maybe it's the answer. The thing is, analog is a fairly safe choice because it is the least expensive of them. I think it's a reliable choice. If you end up hating it, you probably still keep the analog goggles. So you probably still fly some analog drones. I don't know. If I was focused on micros, probably analog or HD0 would be like tied for my first choice, depending on my priorities. Okay. That does it for the Discord questions and the super chats, and we've gotten a bunch of the regular YouTube chat as well, and it is 3 p.m., so that's going to bring us to the end of the stream. Anybody seen Ciati? Is Ciati streaming? Man, sucks when your favorite YouTuber doesn't stream when you expect him to. I wouldn't know anything about that, though. But I am back for now, and I will be back tomorrow as well. What's up?
Exactly. We'll be back tomorrow for the U.S. Q&A, and then most likely we'll be back Tuesday for the news. I believe that's going to be the case.
All right. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, everybody. Good to be back.